I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Washington, D.C. federal judge Tanya Chutkan just made a brilliant move that will expose Donald Trump and his lawyers' inflammatory filings in the Washington, D.C. federal prosecution by Special Counsel Jack Smith for Donald Trump's attempt to overturn the results of the 2020 election. As we previously reported here on the MeidasTouch Network, Special Counsel Jack Smith has requested a limited gag order for Donald Trump to stop making extrajudicial threats against the judge, against the community, against the prosecutors, and against the witnesses. And Special Counsel Jack Smith's motion for this limited gag order sets forth all of the instances where Donald Trump went on his social media platform to engage in these overt threatening acts. And then Special Counsel Jack Smith explained how the consequences of these threats, of this stochastic terrorism, has led to death threats against prosecutors, against the judge, and against witnesses. So Donald Trump responded to that by filing an opposition where Donald Trump's lawyer said Donald Trump's never threatened anybody at all. Donald Trump's never intimidated anybody at all. What are you talking about? Donald Trump's acted entirely appropriately, Donald Trump's lawyers argue in their opposition to Special Counsel Jack Smith's motion for a limited gag order. So those motions and the opposition is before Judge Chutkan, and Judge Chutkan's like, you know what? I'm going to hold a hearing on this. Let's have Donald Trump's lawyers show up here, and I want to ask them questions. And I'm going to see if they think that these things are appropriate. Now, she doesn't say that specifically in the order, but that's the brilliance of holding this hearing, because Donald Trump's opposition to Special Counsel Jack Smith's motion for a limited gag order, it was written like a press release for MAGA right-wing extremist media. It was a horrific court document. So let's get into court and, okay, lawyers, you wrote this ridiculous document. Now it's time to answer for it, and answer for it on October 16th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Here's the minute order from Judge Chutkan. Minute order as to Donald J. Trump. The court hereby schedules a hearing on the government's motion to ensure that extrajudicial statements do not prejudice these proceedings on October 16, 2023 at 10 a.m. in courtroom 9. The requirement of defendant's appearance is waived for this hearing. Signed by Judge Tanya S. Chutkan, dated September 29th, 2023, meaning Donald Trump doesn't have to show up, but his lawyers do have to show up for that hearing. And I think Donald Trump's lawyers are going to get grilled. And what are they going to get grilled on? Well, here is the motion, or the opposition rather, that Donald Trump filed. It was a response in opposition to prosecution's motion for prior restraints, is what Donald Trump's lawyers referred to it as. And they say Trump respectfully submits this response. It says on August 1, 2023, the prosecution publicly released a 45-page speaking indictment that read very much like a campaign press release. As if the indictment's media talking points were not enough, Prosecutor Jack Smith then held a press conference. The inflammatory rhetoric, which violated long-standing rules of prosecutorial ethics, was then repeated daily by media publications. Tossing these foundational principles aside, the Biden administration, Trump writes in this motion, charged Trump, the leading contender in 2024, for statements he made as president. Now keenly aware that it is losing the race for 2024, the prosecution seeks to unconstitutionally silence, and they write this, President Trump is what they're putting in this opposition. Then you go throughout their opposition, and it's like sub A. Trump has not intimidated anyone, is what Donald Trump's lawyers argue here. Next, the prosecution argues, without evidence, that it needs a proposed gag order to prevent the purported intimidation of the prosecution, the court, and potential witnesses. This claim is meritless. First, it is absurd to suggest that the prosecution and the court are intimidated by critical social media posts, let alone to such an extent that it constitutes clear and present danger to the administration of justice. The prosecution does not point to a single prosecutorial or judicial function that has been impaired due to the cited social media posts. Okay, the court has received death threats as a result of Donald Trump's social media posts. Witnesses have received death threats as a result of Donald Trump's social media posts. People from the prosecutor's office have received death threats. So yes, death threats and threatening witnesses and threatening the court, yes, that interferes with the fair administration of justice. And then the statement goes on, and the Trump's opposition goes on to say, similarly, no witness has suggested that he or she will not testify because of anything Trump has said. To the contrary, witnesses appear eager to share their expected testimony with the media and will undoubtedly testify at a potential trial, Trump's lawyers say. So the witnesses, they love being threatened. They love being intimidated. So I can't wait for those lawyers to show up before Judge Chutkan, and she's going to go through and she's going to read the posts. I bet you that's what happens that Donald Trump made and say, so I want your understanding. You think this is appropriate? Because they've set themselves up for that now by engaging in this motion, which read more like a press release than a proper legal document. Goes on to say in Trump's opposition, unable to identify any instance where Trump uttered any threat, the prosecution points to others, claiming Trump knows that when he publicly attacks individuals and institutions, he inspires others to perpetrate threats and harassment against his targets. Again, the prosecution offers no evidence of any causal connection between his speech and the alleged unlawful acts of others to support his meritless claim. Okay, there is actually a person right now who's being prosecuted or cases set for trial for threatening the life of Judge Chutkan, responding to Donald Trump's threats. I think the court can take judicial notice of that existence. And then Trump's opposition says, the prosecution does not and cannot explain how Trump's statements would provoke any reasonable listener to lawlessness. It's happened, and Jack Smith's team has showed exactly how it's happened. So here's the types of things that Jack Smith put in the motion for a limited gag order. Since the indictment, the defendant, Donald Trump, has deployed misleading and inflammatory statements about this case to undermine confidence in the justice system and prejudice the jury pool. The defendant made clear his intent to issue public attacks related to this case when the day after his arraignment, he posted a threatening message on his social media platform, all in caps. If you go after me, I'm coming after you. That's what Donald Trump posted. Donald Trump also posted, no way I can get a fair trial or even close to a fair trial in Washington, D.C., this filthy and crime-ridden embarrassment to our nation. Another one, there's no way I can get a fair trial with the judge assigned to this ridiculous freedom of speech, fair elections case. Everybody knows this, and so does she. We will immediately ask for recusal of this judge on very powerful grounds. Deranged Jack Smith is going before his number one draft pick, the judge of his dreams, who must be recused in an attempt to take away my First Amendment rights. This despite the fact that he, the DOJ, and his many thug prosecutors are illegally leaking everything. So the first category was that attack. The next one was post attacking, undermining, or attempting to intimidate prosecutors. Yes, by calling Jack Smith a thug and lying about him and calling him deranged. And then the next post, it has just been reported that aides to Trump prosecutor deranged Jack Smith met with high-profile officials at the White House, political sleazebags, and that's just not even accurate, threatening witnesses. Wow, it's finally happened. Little Mike Pence, a man who was about to be ousted as governor in Indiana until I came along, has gone to the dark side. He says, sad, he goes. So I think unlike Judge Eileen Cannon, Judge Tanya Chutkan, who has command of her courtroom, is going to call in Trump's lawyers and is going to say, okay, little Mike Pence, are you okay with that statement? You're telling me that if you go after me, I'm coming after you is not a threat? You think it's okay saying deranged Jack Smith and saying these lies? Do you have evidence of these statements? And then we'll see Donald Trump's lawyers in court fumble and mumble and not be able to articulate anything here that they tried to do in this opposition, which was, again, more for press release purposes than to actually address the issue. So smart move by Judge Chutkan. We will keep you posted as we learn more. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers. And please join our Patreon, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a great day.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.